What's it like for you to think that abortion could become illegal here, but just across the way there, people still would be able to access it?
Yeah, I mean, it's as nonsensical as this entire conversation, that you can be this close to access, but in reality, it's, could be a lifetime away for some people. I suggested that we talk here because, this is a monument to the Underground Railroad and the role that Detroit played in getting people to freedom. And we're talking about that now. Providers are talking about how do we make this short distance and a pathway to access and freedom possible for people. Yeah, so we actually really should see who is going up there.
There's a large network trying to build that pathway.
This is only the most recent attack on reproductive freedoms.
Danielle Atkinson is among them. She founded Mothering Justice, which fights for the needs of mothers of color. So Danielle, what happens if Roe versus Wade falls in Michigan?
I called up my midwife, who also serves as an abortion doula, and asked her what does this mean for her and her profession. And it says stockpiling abortion-causing drugs, figuring out how we get people, who's willing to risk being imprisoned, and how do we make a network that goes to Canada.
And for those populations, the people most at risk, what does this mean for them?
We have a state that has a high poverty level, and that's obviously Black and brown populations, but it's also rural white populations. It's about, do I have a car with gas or a passport? Can I get over there? And can I get back? And what does that mean? Can I leave my job? Do I have paid leave? This is a system of privilege and resources that we have to take into consideration. We have to think about the people who are living on the margins of our society and what does it mean to physically get across a river.
This is one of many protests across the state here in Michigan. Canada has said that it will welcome Americans seeking an abortion. The question is, does that work for Americans? This is the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. I'm here to meet up with a student who connects people seeking abortions with those services and also helps provide peer support for those people. She also hopes to someday become an abortion provider herself.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. How feasible is that for people seeking an abortion to come across the border?
My first thought goes to passports. A lot of pregnancies are unplanned, right? So it's not like you're checking your passport date to make sure that it's up to date and that you'll be able to even go to Canada right away. So as lovely as an option as it is for Michiganders to have Canada right next door, and I love that option, I truly wish that we don't have to fall on that as our plan B or C.
So the kind of help that you're able to offer people, how does that change when, say, this 1931 law kicks in?
It is going to be really risky in terms of communication and even organizing and strategizing. Are we going to be targets? I can see a lot of surveillance coming around in this country in terms of, oh, well, you're helping your neighbor get an abortion, I'm going to tattle on you and you can be prosecuted, sort of thing.
Does that scare you?
Oh yes, 100%. But at the same time, I can't just be scared and sit in my house all day, right?
The truth of the matter is, people have been crossing this border for decades to access abortion services. Back in the 80s, it was Canadians in particular who were coming over to the U.S. side.
The trip from Metro takes about 2 hours. That's why they come here, because they can get appointments immediately or sooner than they can in Ontario. There are 5 licensed outpatient abortion clinics in this border city.
What do you think of that?
Well, it brings us back a lot.
We would see many patients coming in who were trying to access abortion and were having one heck of a time. And we made connections. And over those years, thousands of Canadians went to the United States and were incredibly graciously received. When the Morgentaler Clinic was bombed or firebombed here, they came up to stand in solidarity with us.
So that's the past, and now this has happened.
Correct.
What do you see as your role?
I think that if indeed the situation got as dire as it might, there would certainly be physicians who would be willing, if the need was there, to set up some type of clinical facility in the Windsor area so that people didn't have to come all the way to Toronto. And I think it'll just really mobilize people in this country to do everything they can if we're called upon to return the favor, if I may put it that way.
Back in Detroit, where a face etched in bronze looks across the river to freedom, Danielle Atkinson is happy to have the favor returned as she scrambles for answers on her side of the border.
What this means for Black and brown people, and what does access look like? What does the ability to get people to services look like? It's been crazy.
And likely will continue to be for weeks, maybe years to come.
So, Katie, I gather it's not a given that if Roe v. Wade falls, that people in Michigan will lose access to abortion.
No, there are still a couple of court battles that are playing out. For example, the governor, Gretchen Whitmer, she is challenging it. She has filed a lawsuit way back in April to strike down that 1931 law. She wants to see access to abortion enshrined in the state constitution. The Attorney General, who herself had an abortion, she was pregnant with triplets. She was told all three would not be viable if she did not make a decision and abort one of the fetuses. She says she will not prosecute this law. And other county prosecutors, they have followed suit. There was even talk on the ground of creating sanctuary cities within the state. But of course, all of this depends on who is in power, and this is, of course, an election year in Michigan.
All right, we'll be watching. Katie, thank you.
You're welcome.